Hello friends, welcome again to the tetrahedron chemistry classes. So guys, in today's class of concept booster series, I am going to discuss a few very important questions from the transition metal series. Okay, these questions are actually quite conceptual, and you should learn such questions for your examinations, whether it is the competitive examination or your say semester examination. Okay, so without wasting time, I am going to discuss these problems. The first problem you can read in the slide. Transition metals are less reactive than the alkali metals and alkaline earth metals. So you know this, if you have this lithium, after lithium you may have your sodium, then potassium and all other group, and then you may have your beryllium, and then you may have your magnesium, and then your calcium. Okay, so first is this one is your alkali metals, the lithium series, and beryllium series is your alkaline earth metals. Okay, alkaline earth metals, so collectively they are known as the S block elements, okay. And when it comes to the transition metal series, so you may have three series: 3D, 4D and 5D series. And if you know this 3D series, it starts from scandium, okay, titanium, vanadium, and it goes and ends up to zinc. Okay, zinc is having somewhere here, right? It is having the 30 atomic number, scandium is 21. So these transition metals basically is TM, transition metals, they are less reactive. So what is the reason behind this? So please remember this point: transition metals have very small size compared to the S block elements. So these S block elements, right, they have the larger size, while the D block elements are having the smaller size. So what could be the reason behind the smaller size of the transition metals? Transition metals involves actually the d orbitals. They involves the d orbitals. Okay, and if you know the shielding effect, I can write it here: shielding effect. The shielding effect is highest for the s orbital, followed by the p, and then the d, and f are the very f orbitals are very worst shielder, or d orbitals are not very good shielder again. So what can happen, since the shielding of these d orbit done by these d orbitals or d electrons is not very effective, so what can happen actually, effective nuclear charge for transition metals increases. So they have the higher ENC, effective nuclear charge, higher ENC, due to poor shielding, and thus it is having the smaller size. So what can happen when the effective nuclear charge is very high? If you write the electronic configuration of scandium, okay, then you will find it is 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p6, okay, then 3d, and then 4s. Okay, so 4s2, so 6 4 10, 10 8 18, 19 20 21. Okay, so what is the meaning of the reactivity? Meaning of the reactivity is that the removal of the electron from the 4s orbital. Okay, since these d orbitals, right, they are the very poor shielder, and effective nuclear charge is very high. So what can happen, nucleus actually exerts the very strong attraction on these s electrons. So these electrons are not readily available for the reaction, which actually reflects in the lower reactivity of the transition metals when compared to the alkali and alkaline earth metals. So this is the first problem. Now moving to the next problem. What is the second problem? Okay, now second problem is this one. Copper 2 positive is more stable than the Cu2 positive. Okay, so copper is having the atomic number of 29. Okay, and when you remove 2 electron from it, it will give you copper 2 positive, and it will have 27 electrons only. And for 27 electrons, if you write the electronic configuration, it would become 3d9 system. Okay, and for Cu positive, it is having the one more electron, and that means 28 electron it is having. So if you write the electronic configuration for this one, then you will find in the d orbitals you are having the 10 system, right, 10 electrons. So generally what can happen, the completely filled and completely half filled orbitals are more stable, but in that case reverse is happening. See what is written here, this Cu2 positive, which is actually your D9 system, is more stable. Okay, and this is less stable. right? So this actually violates the symmetry criteria and the number of electron exchanges criteria, okay, to explain the stability of the half-filled and full-filled orbitals. So what could be the reason in that case? Okay, so it simply reflects that if you have this Cu2 positive ion, okay, so it is having very high positive charge when compared to the Cu positive. Okay, so what can happen? Its effective nuclear charge is very high. Effective nuclear charge is high for this Cu2 positive. Okay, and of course, what happens, like when the effective nuclear charge is very high, definitely the size would be smaller, a small size, right? And this is the basic fact actually. The species which is having the higher positive charge, which will have the smaller size actually. So what can happen due to this smaller size and very high, if very high effective nuclear charge, the lattice energy, okay, lattice energy and hydration energy, both hydration energy of Cu2 positive is very high. So due to this higher lattice energy and your higher hydration energy, this Cu2 positive is more stable in contrast to this Cu positive, which is having the 3D10 system. So this is the first reason, and you may notice one very important feature. This actually, if you have this Cu positive ion, right? Cu positive ion means, that means if you have this 3D10 system, so what actually do, if you put it this into the reaction actually, so in the aqueous solution, so in the aqueous solution it will undergo the disproportionation reaction. That means it will form the elemental copper as well as your Cu2 positive. Okay, and you know that Cu2 positive is what, which is, it is this one actually, right? And elemental copper. So generally your copper act as the noble metal. Please remember this point. More or less this copper actually act as the noble metal. Okay, and it regains its elemental state. So definitely its stability would be very high, because it is going to form this one due to this disproportionation reaction. And one more thing, if you have say this Cu2 positive ion, okay, so it actually undergoes, in the light of the coordination chemistry, it undergoes John Taylor distortion. And when the John Taylor distortion occurs, additional splitting of the d orbitals would occur. And when the additional stability of the d orbitals, degenerate d orbitals would occur, and then the complex of the Cu2 positive would be highly stable. So these are the few regions which makes the Cu2 positive ion more stable. Okay, now moving to the next problem. This is problem number 3, again a very important conceptual problem. See, 4s orbital is filled first, is filled prior to the 3d orbitals, but when you do the ionization, that means you are removing the electron, then the electron is removed from the 4s electron. This is actually the contradictory one. Why? See, what happens actually, right? If you compare the energies of here, see, if you know the Aufbau principle, if you know the Aufbau principle, okay, so according to the Aufbau principle, if you remember, okay, energy of the 4s orbital, right? Energy of the 4s orbital is lower than the 3d orbital, and you know, uh, according to the above principle, the orbital which is having the lower energy will be filled first. That's why this is filled first. So the first point, there is no problem in the first point. 4s subshell is filled prior to the 3d orbital. Of course, this is according to the above principle. But if you do the ionization, right, if you do the ionization, then the electron would be removed from the 4s orbital. Then what could be the reason behind this? Okay, so I'm telling you, see, whenever you are actually filling these d orbitals, so when you completely fill this orbital and these d orbitals have the electrons, okay, so their energy, actually the energy of the 3d orbitals or the d orbitals falls greatly. Okay, and when the energy actually falls very greatly, so what can happen, this 3d orbital becomes more stable. And you know, when it becomes the more stable, definitely it will have the lower energy. When it will have the lower energy, you cannot remove the electron from the orbital which is having the lower energy. That's why the electron is removed from the 4s orbital. So you should remember this particular point, because this is the very good question in fact actually. However, I have not involved any quantum chemistry into it, right? So correct explanation actually is there in the quantum chemistry, but it is quite mathematical and lots of things are there, right? But you should remember this point, right? Initially actually 4s orbital is having the lower energy, but as you fill the electrons in the d orbitals, as in case of the transition metals, so after filling the electrons, their energy actually falls drastically due to the poor shielding of these d orbitals and all these things, okay? And then when the energy falls, so this will become the lower energy and orbital, and 4s orbital becomes the higher energy orbital. And in that case, again you will remove the electron from the 4s orbital. This is important question, you should remember this point actually. Now moving to the next question, what it says. Okay, now next question says, mercury is the liquid at the room temperature. In fact, see, this is a very famous question. Mercury is the only metal in the periodic table which exists in the liquid form at the room temperature. So what should be the reason behind this? What could be the reason behind this, right? So reason you can understand very beautifully if you write the electronic configuration of mercury. So mercury, which is having the atomic number of 80. So if you write the electronic configuration, so xenon is there, configuration of the xenon, and after xenon you are having the f orbitals. This is having 4f14, okay, and then you are having 5d10, and then you are having the 6s2. These orbitals are there, and you know these f orbitals are worst shielder. Their shielding effect is lowest, and this is also, they are also the bad shielder, okay? So what can happen due to the poor shielding effect of the 4f orbitals and the d orbitals? What can happen, these 4s electrons are very tightly held by the nucleus, and these electrons we cannot remove from here, okay? When you are not able to remove the electron from here, you are not having the unpaired electron in the system, so it cannot form the metallic bond, right, as well as the covalent bond. So the formation of the tendency of the formation of the metallic bond as well as the covalent bond is actually almost nil in case of the mercury, because of these 4f orbitals. Because of these 4 of orbitals, so these electrons are not actually can be removed from here. So that's why the melting point, when the metallic bonding is not there, its melting point falls very rapidly, very low melting, right? That's why at room temperature your mercury exists as the liquid. So this is the possible reason for this one. Now moving to the next problem, what it says. Question number 5. The first ionization potential of mercury is higher than the cadmium. Okay, so this question again is a very simple one. Say you are having zinc, after zinc you are having the cadmium, and after cadmium you are having the mercury. So these three belongs to the same series, okay? So you know, when you move down the group, your ionization potential increases. So what could when ion sorry what I have written, decreases, so it should be increases. Your ionization potential when you move down the group, okay, sorry, decreases, not increases, what I am saying, sorry for that, okay? So decreases, generally it can happen when you move down the group, the ionization potential decreases. But here in that case, see, if you follow this logic, then definitely this Hg should have lower ionization potential than cadmium, but this is not true. Your mercury is having the higher ionization potential than cadmium. So what could be the reason behind this? The reason is again quite simple. I have given you the electronic configuration of the mercury. Again I am writing that electronic configuration of the mercury for you. This was, I think, Hg with 80 electrons. Xenon configuration is there. Then you are having your 4f14 electrons, okay, and then you are having 5d10 electrons, and then you are having the 4s2 electron, not 4s, actually it should be 6x. Let me check what I have written. Okay, 6s, fine, there is no problem, okay? Now if you want to write the electronic configuration of cadmium, okay, so cadmium is your Cd, cadmium is 48, okay, so this is just like that magic number. 30 plus 18 is 48, okay, and 48 plus 32 is your 80. Okay, magic number you can add to it. Okay, so if you write the electronic configuration of this one, so I'm not writing the whole electronic configuration, I'm writing from here. It will have the 3d10. Okay, and not 3d10, I am extending it a little bit more. Finally at the end, what I can have in that case, I can have in that case 4d10, and then I can have 5s2, right? But in that case, no d orbitals, no f orbitals are involved, no f orbitals are involved. But in case of the mercury, f orbitals are involved, and you know these f orbitals are very worst shielder. And when they are the very worst shielder, what can happen, the size of the effective nuclear charge of Hg would be very very high, and this high effective nuclear charge will held these 6s electrons very very strongly, and the removal of the electron from this actually require very high energy, which reflects in the higher ionization potential of mercury. Okay, while cadmium, it is not having the any f orbital, involvement of any f orbital in the electronic configuration. So the d orbitals which are there, they are actually the little better shielder than your 4f orbitals, right? So they actually shield these 5s electrons from the nuclear pool. So these electron can be removed easily. Okay, but this cannot be removed. That's why the first ionization potential of mercury is higher than the cadmium. Now moving to the next problem, what it says, question number 6. Scandium 3 positive is more stable than the scandium 2 positive. So this question actually I have already solved in case of the copper. Since it is having the higher charge, so it will have the higher effective nuclear charge. Okay, it is highly charged species, and of course its size is also small when compared to the scandium 2 positive. So what can happen in that case, for scandium 3 positive, hydration energy, so I am writing He, hydration energy, and Le, lattice energy. So hydration energy and lattice energy is very very high for this scandium 3 positive than your scandium 2 positive. That's why it is more stable. So this question I have already discussed in case of your copper 2 positive and the copper positive. Now moving to the next problem, what it says, question number 7. Zinc forms Zn2 positive but not Zn3 positive. So it is again, see guys, quite simple here in that case. Zinc, which is having say 30, electronic configuration is 30. So what could be the system? It is actually 3d10 4s2 system. Okay, so once you remove the 2 electrons, see, if you remove the 2 electrons from here and form your zinc 2 positive, so it is having 22 electrons, 28 electrons. So, and 28 electrons will have only 3d10 system, and this is actually what completely filled. So this, due to this completely filled d subshell, it is very very highly stable, right? So removal of the electron from this completely filled d orbitals will require abnormally high energy, which is not possible, right? To, which is that energy is not possible to here to remove an electron. So it will form only 2 positive, 3 positive ion it will not form. Again, it's a very fundamental question. Now moving to the next problem, what it says, why are the salts of the zinc, cadmium and mercury are white? So again, I can explain you this thing very easily. Okay, so I already told you, say for example, you are having zinc, okay, you are having cadmium, you are having the mercury. So if you remove 2 electrons from each of them, so you will result into Zn2 positive, Cd2 positive, and after Cd2 positive, then you may have your Hg2 positive. If you write the electronic configuration for this one, Zn2 positive, so it is 3d10. For Cd2 positive, it will have 4d10, and it will have actually 5d10. Okay, this is how you can write. So you know these d orbitals all are filled, and you know the color of the transition metals are generally due to the dd transitions. However, other regions are also there, which I have discussed in my coordination chemistry series in pretty much detail, right? But right now I am discussing the basic things, so I am not involving the complex things here. So you can simply remember this point. The color of the transition metals compounds are due to the dd transition, and for dd transition to occur, there should be unpaired electron present in the d orbitals, but these d orbitals are filled in the zinc, cadmium and the mercury salt. So there is no possibility of the dd transition. So I can write it here, no dd transition, no dd transition. And when there is no dd transition, so they appears colorless, or you can say they appears white in their salts. Okay, now moving to the next problem. Last problem, this is your last problem. Copper 2 positive salts are blue while Cu positive salts are colorless. Again, see guys, this question is quite simple. If you have Cu2 positive, right? Cu2 positive means it's a 3D9 system, and if you have Cu positive, then it will have the 3D10 system. So 3D9, if you draw 1 2 3 5, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 and 9. So this electron is unpaired electron. While in that case, if you draw for this one 3D10 system, so all electrons are paired. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. So in that case, no dd transition, no dd transition. Thus they appear colorless or the white, in fact colorless. Okay, but in that case, because this unpaired d electron is there, so there occurs the dd transition in the Cu2 positive ions. Okay, that's why the color of the Cu2 positive ions are blue. So if you want to know the why they are blue, then you can go for your color wheel, and then you can understand the things from there. If you want to know these things in pretty much detail, please watch the color of the complexes by tetrahedron chemistry classes. In the coordination chemistry playlist of my channel, actually you will find the great details of the coordination chemistry. Okay, so these are the 9 questions actually which I want to discuss here. So if you want to know, if you make it 10, if you make it question number 10 from the same question, so you should remember this should be paramagnetic. Why paramagnetic? Because it is having the unpaired electron. And Cu positive is diamagnetic because it is having all paired electrons. So 10 questions I have discussed today. Okay, these questions are from the transition metal series, and I hope you understand the things pretty clearly, right? And you can go through your books, then you can understand these problems in, again, if you find in the certain textbooks. So that's it for today for the concept booster series. So I'll meet you in the next class with some other topic. Okay, thank you very much.